So Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz is now in the works for the main event of UFC 279. Both sides of the fight have agreed verbally to this matchup, and now they're just working on finalizing everything. This is the main events for 5 rounds, and that's very important information as well. This is a 5-round fight in the welterweight division, and that does play a part when it comes into predicting Nate Diaz or being confident in a prediction of Khamzat Chimaev, because of course, the more rounds that Nate Diaz has to work with, the better for Nate Diaz. Typically, that's how it goes. I believe he was like the first ever non-title fight, feature fight of a pay-per-view recently against Leon Edwards to have a 5-round matchup. I feel like that's a big part of Nate Diaz's sort of conditions for accepting a fight, but I do believe this is a terrible matchup for Nate Diaz, and I also believe, as much as people may think the jiu-jitsu of Diaz, oh my god, but what about the jiu-jitsu of Diaz? I feel as though grapplers at this higher weight class of 170 are the worst matchup for Nate Diaz. And Diaz, when you look back at his career, has done his best work against strikers. Now, I know people think, on the feet you'll beat Nate Diaz, but watch out going to the ground. This was the big narrative that sort of surrounded the Conor McGregor matchup. I feel as though people that actually take Nate Diaz to the ground always seem to do well against him. Benson Henderson, Rafael Dos Anjos. You had Rory McDonald as well. Like, it's a tough time. Leon Edwards, whenever he got Nate Diaz to the ground, he wasn't really in any danger whatsoever. Even Jorge Masvidal, who doesn't really prioritize getting an opponent to the ground, was more than okay to sit in the guard of Diaz and hit his body and sort of stack the guard and hold the legs and then punch the body from on top and then get into side control and land some elbows to cut open Nate Diaz. Diaz is good on the ground, I understand, but I feel as though when there's this much of a size difference like there's going to be against Khamzat Chimaev, and this much of a strength difference, I believe we're going to see Khamzat Chimaev finish Nate Diaz and be the first guy to finish Nate Diaz for a very long time, since Josh Thompson, of course, landed that wicked head kick that TKO'd Nate Diaz. But I could see Chimaev getting a sub. I could see Chimaev just getting a TKO to ground and pound. I think people are really overthinking this matchup a little bit, and I've seen some comments on posts saying stuff like, man, you guys are sleeping on the jiu-jitsu of Nate Diaz. Who has Nate Diaz submitted in a very, he submitted McGregor after rocking him on the feet, and McGregor basically said, just submit me rather than KO me, please. You know what I mean? That's basically what happened in that matchup. But Diaz isn't really a submission threat. You know what I mean? And I feel as though you could talk to Gilbert Burns has a really good jiu-jitsu game, and Chimaev kind of didn't really go to the ground with Gilbert Burns as much, but I feel as though Nate Diaz's body style and his lack of explosivity on the ground is going to be just absolutely perfect for Khamzat Chimaev to find his way into a dominant position, land big shots of ground and pound, and eventually, if he keeps landing those shots, Diaz is going to have to give something up. He's going to have to choose, do I give up my back? Do I give up mount? What do I need to give up to stop taking these big punches of ground and pound? Because I feel as though Khamzat Chimaev is going to ragdoll him here. I think he's going to get in there. If you've ever watched a Rory McDonald matchup with Nate Diaz, you can say, the grappling of Diaz has improved since then. I feel like the work rate of Diaz has not improved. Every single time he fights, he doesn't look in the best of shape and stuff like that. Like, sure, he's still dangerous because he's tough and he can make it to the end of these contests and stuff like that, but I feel as though this is a problem for Nate Diaz. Not only on the ground, but on the feet. I would not be surprised if Chimaev just runs across the octagon and just blasts a big front kick to the body on Nate Diaz, gets him up against the cage, elbow, knee to the body, punch, separate, big uppercut, left hook. Like, Diaz needs time to settle into matchups before he can even land a punch. Like, there was a moment in, it's almost like sad to watch a Diaz fight because you feel pity on him, because the commentary are like, you know when, I don't know if anyone has like a younger sibling in their family or like a younger cousin or anything like that, but they like make like a really bad picture out of macaroni, and then the parents go, really good job. This is going right on the fridge. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of feels like that with a commentary. Like, Diaz finally lands a decent shot on Leon Edwards, and the commentary's like, oh, hang on a second. Nate Diaz ain't out of this one. And this is just the legend that Nate Diaz is. Like, he finally lands a decent shot on Leon Edwards, and the commentary goes, oh, hang on, Diaz landed a punch. Like, that's how it feels nowadays. And I feel like against Khamzat Chimaev, the power that he has on the feet, he'll just step in and piston jab right in the face of Nate Diaz. And he'll get on top and land some big elbows like he did against Gilbert Burns. But if he lands those elbows on Nate Diaz, all that scar tissue's opening up immediately. I feel like Chimaev's going to have a mindset of going out there to destroy Diaz. But this is where it could all go wrong. Okay? This is where things could go very wrong. And there is always that worry in a Nate Diaz matchup, and this is where his chance lies. If he somehow survives a vicious beating from Khamzat Chimaev, and they've got 4 more rounds to go, and Chimaev is like, okay, well, I'll try finish him the 2nd round, and it doesn't happen. All right, well, maybe the 3rd. Oh, God, I'm starting to get a bit tired, and Diaz is still there, just sort of like trudging forward like a corpse. Just trudging in, flicking out shots that barely land, but the pressure's starting to get to Chimaev, and the crowd is starting to rally behind Nate Diaz. I feel as though it's going to be maybe a problem, and that's where the worry lies. But I really do see Chimaev beating him up on the feet badly, hurting him to the body a couple of times, landing some really big shots, landing a couple of really good leg kicks early on. I think that's what's going to be the plan. For the first minute of the first round, rush straight in, massive leg kick, big front kick to the body, 1-2 to the face, leg kick again, get up Nate Diaz against the cage, knee to the body, elbow, elbow, knee to the body, get the back position against the cage, drag him down to the canvas, pin his wrist, punch him a whole bunch of times, land a bunch of shots on the scar tissue areas of Diaz across that brow, open up some cuts on Diaz, keep landing big shots over and over again. You gotta move, Nate! Move, Nate! And then Nate's just like, roll over, and then Chimaev gets a better position and sort of drags him to the center of the cage and puts one hook in. More big shots from Chimaev. Diaz tries to roll, another hook in from Khamzat Chimaev. Big shots of ground and pound. Big shots of ground and pound. Diaz gives up his neck. Chimaev sinks it in. I just feel as though, and this is only verbally agreed and in the works, and I don't think it's official just yet, but it must be. I think that the news that it's official is that they've moved Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw over to UFC 280 as the co-main event of Oliveira versus Makhachev. So I feel as though the fact that they've done that is basically confirming, okay, it's done. This matchup is made. Nate Diaz versus Khamzat Chimaev, the main event of UFC 279, which, by the way, I'm just going to say this as a card, is not acceptable so far. Like, if they just have that as the main event and think the rest of the card is good enough, we have 7 weeks until that card happens. Okay? The 10th of September. September is 2 months away. You know what I mean? And we're already a week ahead in terms of the week of the month. So that's about 7-8 weeks at best. I don't quite know the math of it. But that's 8 weeks at best away. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights on that card. And I'll be honest, none of them are main card material. Other than maybe Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Jelton Almeida. I know they're going to put Irene Aldana versus Macy Chasson on the main card of that card as well. So maybe they do have some that they can move, but we need some other big matchups on this card immediately, in my opinion. And if I was like a Chandler or someone like that, I'd be like, get me on that September card. Get me on that September card. If anything happens to the main event, I can jump in. Whoever it is against, I'll fight anyone. Just give me someone in the lightweight division. Get me ready, get me in shape so I can maybe be there for the build-up, get some sort of narratives going with some of the people in the top fights of the card and stuff like that. Like, I feel as though this is going to be a brutal end for Nate Diaz. There is always that worry, but there is also some information that came out recently. Diaz has 4 months left on his contract. 4 months. And, 4 months left on his contract. And, let's just say he pulls out of this, which I know is not the Diaz way of doing it. I get that, but let's just say he, an injury, broke his rib in training, guys. Oh, there goes his ACL. Any doctor's notes? No doctor's notes. No. He's just injured. Can't fight, guys. We're going to have to delay this. Hey, we'll try and reschedule you for December. Sure. I'll see you in November when I'm done with my contract and no longer fighting for the company. See ya. Off to fight Jake Paul. I feel as though this is going to be a bad one for Diaz. I could see him pulling out. I believe there's a fly in my shed that I just heard whiz past my head. I'm not sure, though. But I feel as though, yes, this is going to be a bad fight for Nate Diaz if he does take it. There is a worry that maybe he does pull out and then just sort of like get to the end of his contract and not even fight this fight. So if I was a top-level guy at welterweight that wanted a matchup, I'd be staying ready. If I was Shavkat Rakhmonov or if I was Henry Hooft, I'd be saying, hey, Shavkat, get yourself ready. Hey, Gilbert Burns, get yourself ready. Hey, Masvidal over at ATT, get ready right now. If anything happens, we can jump in. If anything happens to Chimaev, they can jump in as well. But I feel as though something that really makes me feel good about this matchup is if Chimaev never had the Burns fight and was going straight into this Diaz matchup, that would worry me a bit. That would worry me a bit more. If this was the first time that Chimaev was going to leave the first or second round and it was against Nate Diaz in a 5-round main event, that would worry me. I'm glad we saw him start to slow a bit in the second at a very high pace against Gilbert Burns and then pick it back up in the third and show that second wind that he has to keep pushing through some tiredness, some fatigue. You know what I mean? I feel as though it's good to see. I like that we saw it. I would worry more if we never saw that fight against Gilbert Burns. Let's say he destroyed Gilbert Burns and now this was the matchup. I'd worry a bit more, but I just feel as though this is a tough fight for Nate Diaz. He's going to get smashed to pieces. He's just an out-of-shape guy. No explosive muscle ability whatsoever. Khamzat Chimaev is going to be taller than him. He's going to be stronger than him. He's going to be more explosive than him. And Rory McDonald chucked Nate Diaz around like an absolute sack of potatoes in the welterweight division. And I know that he's not the same Diaz as he was back then. But if anything, I feel like he was more committed. I just killed that fly. Easy work. You know what I'm saying? I'm that quick with it. But either way, I feel as though this is going to be a problem for Diaz. The grapplers at welterweight. I think if Chimaev just doesn't fear his ground game, he's going to get to dominant position, take the back position, get the handcuff, land the big shots, land them to the head, thud, thud, thud on Diaz. You gotta move, Diaz. And he tries to roll for a leg and stuff and then gives the middle fingers while he's on the ground and Chimaev just gets back on top. Bang, bang, bang to the body of Nate Diaz. Knees him to the body while he's on his side. More punches to the head. Diaz gives up his back. I just feel like it's going to be a bad look for Diaz. I don't see him winning this matchup. You got to remember that Khamzat Chimaev, on top of all of these things that we're saying about him, just going to double check it right now because I feel like he's 27. I think he's 27 years of age. 28. Just turned in May. He's 28 years of age. And not just 28, 11 fights. That he has 11 fights, 1 amateur bout. 11 fights as a pro. So he's very low on experience. And he's just picking it up as he goes along. And that big matchup against Burns is going to give him the confidence that I can beat these top-level guys. And you see him out-wrestle in a matchup with Jack Hermansson, who's a middleweight and a big middleweight and a strong middleweight. And I just don't see a reality where Diaz don't get chucked around and embarrassed in his last fight here. The UFC know what they're doing. Diaz might look good and have some moments, who knows. But there is a worry about the 5-round situation, but I definitely feel like Nate Diaz is going to get absolutely destroyed by Chimaev. Absolutely destroyed. 5 rounds in a main event. We need other fights on that card. We just need other fights on that card. Immediately as well. Like if they're talking about doing Beneil Dariush versus Dustin Poirier, 5-round co-main event on that card. Get it done. I'm sick of these cards that we're getting. Oh, 3 top-level fights. Move on. 3 top-level fights, move on. We need big matchups on these cards. I want to see like a... I mean, Derek Brunson's been out for a while now. Let's see like just a Derek Brunson, Sean Strickland. I don't know, Strickland might not want to turn around that quickly, but he's that psycho enough to do it, so it could work out that way. Let's see some of these matchups, I feel like. Some of these guys that are lingering outside the rankings. I don't think they're going to do Burns Masvidal on that card because Masvidal won't want to be a co-main event to Nate Diaz or anything like that because of the ego and stuff like that. But let's get like a Stephen Thompson versus Mikel Pereira on that card in the feature fight position. You know what I'm saying? Let's get working here. We got to get some matchups made. Beneil Dariush versus like Mateusz Gamrot coming up the rankings. Get that on the card. We got to make the most out of this big main event by getting some really good like other fights on the card. We can't just have the card that it is right now. And we ain't got long left, so I better be seeing some big fights getting announced over the next week or two. And I feel like we're going to get some big fights announced. We'll see how it goes. Big matchup. Really looking forward to it. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. It's boiling hot. I hate doing this. It's boiling hot. Bye. I missed the stop recording button.